everyone. As you can probably tell if you're listening to me and from the announcement, I'm the one person in the room that doesn't sound like everybody else. And I am delighted that this event just happened to be during a time when I'm doing one of my visits to South Africa, and that I can really get an opportunity to see all that's being done and the incredible people that are in this country. I want to tell you the story. I first came to South Africa in 2007, and I fell in love with the country. And that was before I knew that there was a Paarl, Wellington, Stellenbosch, and all that wine country. So, I mean, I really fell in love with the country. And I came over with my church, and my two sons were able to come over with me, which was a true blessing. And they have since been over several other times. I knew that there was just something about this country that was going to call me back again, but I didn't know what. And the people in the church also were called to the country, and of course, being Americans, we figured we'd, come over, figure out what the problem is, and whip out a solution. And I think we were going to build hotels in the townships or something like that. But we came back the next year, and were lucky enough to meet Meyer Conradie. Now, understand that Meyer at the time had not quite graduated from university. He was a very young man, and actually, I thought that he was going to be the romantic interest of one of the young girls we had sent over as a mission. And I was going to say, no way, you're not keeping Jennifer over here in South Africa. So luckily, he just had this idea to change the world. And I didn't have to worry about that. And so he just talked to us about his ideas. He and his fiancée knew that they wanted to do something for their country. And that was something that moved me. That's something that I see with all the people in this room who are so willing to give so much and do so much to make a change. So we talked a little bit more. Meyer came to the United States. I picked him up, and we had a couple of hours to talk, and it just seemed that this young man had some really good ideas and had looked around at what was happening, not coming in like maybe we would have and telling you what the answer would be, but to look at the community that he wanted to serve and say, what's the best way that I can adapt to help them? The idea of starting with nothing and creating something great, please understand, was not unusual for me. My father started a company because he gave up a corporate job, started in a new industry that he thought probably had something, and 40 years later, my brother and I are running it, and it's become a very successful company. So that didn't scare me. I will say that I think I said yes before he mentioned that 5.5 million orphans need care. But that's okay, it was still a good decision. The thing that I am most proud of being associated with Mosaic is to watch the development, not just of a young man growing into an older guy, not just a young couple getting married and then making me an adopted grandmother 3 times. So I love coming over and being Grammy Karen. But in the way that Mosaic is able to evolve and to change, always keeping that basic idea that there are things that need to be done, there are people that need to be helped, and it's not just one thing that is going to change lives, it's a lot of them, but to learn along the way the best way to make a difference and to be open and to share with those ideas. So I am very proud and honored to be with you, and I am very proud and honored to introduce Meyer Conradie and let him to tell you about Mosaic. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Meyer Conradie, and as Karen said, I'm with my wife, the founder, and without my wife, the CEO of Mosaic. And at Mosaic, we have a vision to see every orphan and vulnerable child in South Africa to grow up in a family where they are loved and cared for, and where they can achieve their God-given potential. So where did this start for us? 10 years ago, we met this lady, Sana. Karen mentioned that we were young and we were full of ideas how to take care of orphans, and that's when we met Sana. Now, when we met Sana at the time, she was taking care of 5 orphan and vulnerable children without getting any government grants or support from anyone outside. We thought Sana was unique until we met many more grandmothers like Sana, like Nomtandazo pictured in this picture. And we have learned over the years that 90% of South Africa's, that's 90, not 19, of South Africa's orphan and vulnerable children are actually cared for by grandmothers like Nomtandazo and like Sana. So we've built an entire organization around supporting these grandmothers in the townships where they are living, where they are already taking care of the orphan and vulnerable children living with them. Now, the challenges that these grandmothers face is that they are simply not surviving. I mean, someone like Nomtandazo having to take care of 5 children on only a grant income is physically impossible. So what do we do as an organization for Nomtandazo? First thing that we look at is teaching her life skills. So we make sure that she's equipped on an emotional, spiritual level to take care of 5 and sometimes even more children living with her in the house. The second thing that we do for Nomtandazo and all the grandmothers that we work with is creating a job for them. Okay, so we make sure that they have a sustainable income so that they can put food on the table and take care of the children that's living with them properly. The third thing that we do for Nomtandazo and Sana and all the other mothers that we work with is we make sure that their children are getting a proper education. Getting a proper education in the township might sound like a tough job, but there's a lot of guys out there that's obviously helping us in that process. So we don't have a school ourselves, but we have an after-school program where our kids come home, from school, and they are fed a meal, and we help them with homework, and we do extracurricular activities, and we keep them busy literally until 6 at night. The fourth thing that we do for our families is we make sure that they have decent housing where they can live in. Okay, a lot of the families that we work with, some of them live in RDP houses, but many of them live in shacks. So we build 3-bedroom brick houses that we then rent to our families at a heavily subsidized price, of course, but making sure that these kids are growing up in decent circumstances. And then the last thing that we do is we have a long-term commitment towards our families, making sure that they are part of a community where they are supported, with like-minded mothers caring for all these children that's living with them. So currently, we have operations in Potchefstroom and in Paarl Valley, and then most recently in Port Elizabeth, we have also opened operations. And throughout these 3 operations, we are taking care, we are partnering with 78 grandmothers or parents who's taking care of more than 320 children amongst those families. Looking at the finances, over the past 4 years, we have raised money in a number of different countries. To the total of 2016, we've raised 6.5, 2017 growing up to this year, 12 million rand if we hit our year-end fundraising goals. So this money we have raised through being registered in 4 different countries in the world. In South Africa, we have raised close to 40% of our total income in the past financial year, 42% in the USA, 5% in Germany, and then most recently started fundraising in Sweden. 1% comes from there. Sustainability in our funding, we build it in through having 72 major donors and 100 small donors, and always making sure that no single donor gives us more than 15% of our total income. So how do we scale this? We have an idea. It's rolled out in 3 different cities, but how do we go about to actually achieve that vision of taking care or making sure that 5.2 million OVC are cared for in loving and caring families? So the first thing that we do when we enter a community is we build a community center. Now, the community center is the heartbeat of all our operations and programs in a community, and we invest quite a bit of money to get that community center up and running. But once that's up and running, it's not even just us using that, but also a lot of other organizations in the community. Second thing that we do is we appoint 9 different staff members that's listed there, and then the impact of having such a community center is taking or partnering with 50 families. That's 50 grandmothers and aunts taking care of at least 200 children. Now, the cost associated with this, because that's always the next question when you are speaking with a room filled with business people, the next question is, what is the cost? So putting down if I can speak business terms, the capex of putting down a community center is about 5 million rand, but that includes everything from the building to the desks and the tables and everything that's all the way down to the stationery to start up the first year's programs. Then we run our community center at about 90,000 rand a month. And the impact of that, as I said, is the first 50 families. That's 50 jobs. That's 200 educational opportunities. It's a much healthier community because of that community center. And that's just in the first 5 years. So after that, obviously, that amount just keeps on counting and counting and counting. So where we are at the moment is we have partnered with partners that went through an incubation period with our organization, learned about our model, and is now actually starting their own nonprofit running on the exact same model that Mosaic has built and researched and developed over the past 10 years. So the question begs, now what? So we hope to, in the years to come, in the next 3 to 5 years, is inspire and equip many more individuals and organizations to roll out this community-based, sustainable, and scalable way of caring for orphan and vulnerable children in South Africa. So if what I say today touched your heart, please make sure you speak to me afterwards. Thank you.